My column today is about the bullpen market. And it's about this interesting conundrum that teams face when assessing what they want to do with relievers. Now, as we know, relievers are always in demand at the deadline. Teams are always trying to fortify their bullpens. And we know also that the prices for relievers can be rather high. Now, relievers are valuable. There's no question about it. But relievers also are volatile. And this is kind of where this column comes into play here. So, teams essentially that are in the market, the contenders that want bullpen help, they're facing a choice. And the choice is this: do you go and overpay for one of the controllable late inning weapons, guys like Mason Miller, Emmanuel Clase, Joan Duran, Griffin Jax? They're all under control. David Bednar is another one. Or do you prefer to pay less for a rental, a guy such as Ryan Helsley? Robert Suarez would also qualify. Suarez has the ability at the end of the season to exercise two $8 million player options, one for 26 and one for 27. The expectation is he will not do that. He leads the major leagues in saves. So do you pay the bigger price or do you pay the smaller price? Now, the problem here is that with control, club control over relievers, it's kind of a mixed bag. Because yes, teams always crave club control. We hear it constantly, right? But relievers are so volatile, so prone to fluctuate year to year, even month to month, that maybe additional years of club control is not as desirable. Maybe it matters less than it does than with more stable performers. A starting pitcher that hope will take the ball every fifth day, and position players whose performances are much less subject to fluctuation. Yes, they go up and down, but generally the back of the baseball card does speak volumes with position players. So that's the choice. And if you're a team that wants to pay less for a reliever, that you don't want to get involved with something really where you're giving up multiple prospects and top prospects for a controllable type, well, yeah, that's great, but there's a shortage of the available rentals that are on the market. And I want to show you here just what I mean by that. Let's take a look at the rental relievers who are potentially available. I'm talking mostly here about late inning guys that will close out games. Helsley, I mentioned. Suarez, I mentioned. Kyle Finnegan, he's in decline somewhat. Wasn't even traded last year. And then Kenley Jansen. Kenley might be traded, but who knows what the Angels are going to do. Artie Moreno, their owner, is unpredictable at this time of year. We see it every season. So those are really only the rental options. And I forgot one on that list, Raisel Iglesias of the Atlanta Braves, who is a guy that has some underlying numbers that are okay, but his performance has been wildly inconsistent. So Raisel Iglesias, maybe you want him, but that's a risk. Then again, the controllable relievers, maybe less risky in your mind because of their performances, but again, you're going to pay a higher price. Now let's look at the list of the top controllable relievers. And I might be missing one or two, just relax. Mason Miller of the Athletics, mentioned him. Clase, Duran, Jax, and Bednar. These guys are all really good. Dennis Santana of the Pirates is another one. And the Rockies have a trio of guys that they're actually listening on and may even trade. Yes, the Rockies, they're awakening from their, decade-long slumber when it comes to trade time. So those guys are going to be rather costly. Mason Miller, 4 additional years of club control. Emmanuel Clase, I believe, is 3, and those are at below market rates, so Cleveland can certainly afford him. And then Jackson, Duran each have 2 additional years, and Bednar and Santana 1. So you're paying for, yes, that club control, the additional time that you will have with those players. So the game of chicken is on, and the staring matches that take place every year at the deadline are fully commenced. Because with a 3-day period now in which this will all take place, 3 or 4 days, I should say, you're going to see things happen or not happen. One of the issues here is that Cleveland, the team that holds Clase, and Stephen Kwan, another player in demand, is notoriously disciplined at the deadline. Some teams would say notoriously difficult. Andy McCullough has a great story in The Athletic today about the personalities of the GMs involved at the deadline and how some other teams refer to Cleveland as the Cleveland grind machine because they grind you down in trade talks. So Emmanuel Clase, yeah, maybe you can have him, but Cleveland's not going to waver from its price. Minnesota and Pittsburgh also not known for being wheeler dealer type teams. So that too is a factor here. How available these pitchers are actually going to be. Minnesota also has Joe Ryan, a starter with 2 more years of control. So this is all coming to a head now. And let's look at some of the teams involved too, because this is interesting as well. All right, the Dodgers, perhaps the most interesting team. Here's a club that spent more than $100 million on free agent relievers last offseason. Blake Trinan, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, and yet they're still looking for bullpen help. Amazing. Now, they have some guys coming back from injuries. Trinan is one. Scott will be back as well. Michael Kopech. But the Dodgers are a team that is looking for bullpen help. Will they pay the price for one of these guys? Well, they've got the farm system to do it. They've also got the oldest position player roster in the game, so maybe they're starting to feel like the window's not closing just yet, of course, but it's shrinking a little bit. Maybe they want to play in that market. Detroit Tigers. Now, their problem is with regard to some of the available controllable types, these guys are in the same division, the ones with Cleveland, the ones with Minnesota. Detroit, though, is something like 28th in bullpen strikeout rate. They need swing and miss in their bullpen. The Yankees, they would want a controllable reliever because they're looking at Devin Williams and Luke Weaver possibly leaving in free agency. And as we continue on here, you can look at other teams as well. The Mets, the Phillies. We know the Phillies are not going to stop with David Robertson. And the Blue Jays, a team that is in the midst of a very special season, a team with a team president, Mark Shapiro, who is in the final year of his contract, a team that has not won the World Series since 1993 and is desperate to do something big again. The Blue Jays need bullpen help as well. So all of these teams are going to be in the mix for all of these players, and we're going to see which ones are willing to take the risk of perhaps overpaying for a controllable reliever, and which teams will take a risk the other way and not do that, and maybe do what the Boston Red Sox did last year, acquiring Luis Garcia and Lucas Sims, 2 moves that clearly were not enough. They went on the cheap. They checked the boxes, they got the relievers, but they didn't get to where they wanted to go. So it all comes to a head. Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll know then the truth. We'll know then which teams were willing to pay and which teams said, we're not going there.